Hello and welcome, you beautiful people. I was going through my old videos the other day and realized my previous Demon Slayer reviews are, well, terrible, and now that the third season is in full swing, I figured it's high time to remedy that and do a new one. So yeah, Demon Slayer, the anime that started really quite slowly and then episode 19 hit and exploded the internet. And since then the franchise has gone to break pretty much every single anime and manga related record you can think of. I mean, Mugen Train beats Spirited Away as the highest grossing Japanese movie ever, which I think is absolutely insane. And on that bombshell, welcome to Japan, at the dawn of the 20th century, to a world not too dissimilar to ours. Only man-eating monsters and people who slay them in order to protect society are reality here. And it is one of these monsters, or demons as they're called, that kicks things off for the most generic shonen protagonist ever, who also happens to be our intrepid hero, Tanjiro Kamado. Honestly, generic shonen really is a term that describes Demon Slayer pretty damn well in most regards, but it also shows how that isn't necessarily a bad thing, since, let's face it, a well-executed shonen always does well and for a good reason. But being generic does also mean it comes with the usual shonen lows, as well as the highs. Tanjiro ends up being the typical chosen one hero who still has a rocky road ahead of him as he becomes the best and greatest at everything, really, in a story that consists of large quantities of the usual, well, that's convenient, shonen events and fights where the keyword is willpower. That being said, there is a breath of fresh air as Tanjiro more than once gets his shit kicked in and has to tap into his special Chosen One juice for a massive power-up in round 2, only to get his shit kicked in again in new and inventive ways, and at the end of the day it takes the big bad of the Demon Slayer Corps to bring down the high-ranking demons, with the main trio, or well, quartet, filling in as assistants at least so far. The story fully commits to the tried and trusted battle shonen template of the main characters being slowly introduced to stronger and stronger antagonists until they run into a wall, get rescued barely alive, which leads to a training montage and back into the fray. Hell, the foes Tanjiro and friends end up going against are even numbered in order of power for our convenience. It's so predictable that it would be absolutely ridiculous if it wasn't executed to perfection. The rhythm established towards the end of Season 1 brings such great pacing to the show, which superbly balances between the pure hype-inducing fights and quieter moments of healing growth and comedy. Not to mention, it's these moments that let us learn more about the world and the characters. But at the end of the day, Demon Slayer is still a battle shonen, and it is those battles where the show truly shines. Indeed, it was the amazing fight in episode 19 between Tanjiro and Lower Moon 5 Rui that made us as anime fans collectively drop our jaws in astonishment as we realized just how incredible Demon Slayer can be. However, these battles are a bit of a double-edged sword. While UFO table, I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. Anyway, they were undoubtedly cooking some of the most entertaining anime viewing ever when making the fights in Demon Slayer. This is also where the pacing sometimes goes out the window. The thing with anime is that there has to be that internal monologue to let us as viewers know exactly what each character is thinking, and there are essentially two ways of doing this. You can either weave the monologue into the fight at the risk of distracting your audience from the action itself, or slow things down for the duration. And here they chose the latter approach, which I take some issue with. It's honestly kind of a suffering from success kind of a situation, since I could rain down superlatives describing just how amazing the fight scenes are when the action is in full tilt, but the contrast with that excellence is what makes the slowdowns stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, there are scenes where amazing action just stops at a pivotal moment for the sake of an internal monologue, and that is very distracting. That being said, this is honestly the only major problem I can find in what makes Demon Slayer so goddamn good. Now sure, I could sit here for hours picking holes in every tiny detail, like, I don't know, how the choreographies of the fights sometimes fall a little flat, but in all honesty, nobody would ever even notice unless they were specifically looking for flaws. It's all masterfully hidden in dynamic camera angles, flashy animation, and pure unadulterated hype that clocks a full 11 out of 10 in terms of sheer entertainment value. But you can't have a full-blown franchise with just cool fights alone. what happens is important, but so is to whom it all happens to, since it's the characters that bring a story alive, and the cast of Demon Slayer is a bit of a weird bunch. Like, literally, a lot of them are just weird people. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad characters, they might not be amazing, and much like a lot of other shonen characters, they can be overly tropey at times, but each character is interesting enough, and for once even the antagonists, at least the major ones, reach the same level of detail as the good guys, which might not be a lot, but still. Sure, their backstories seem to only exist as tear-jerking segments that sometimes feel a bit forced, and seem to mainly be there to emphasize just how much of a good guy Tanjiro is, since he can feel sorry for a being that has devoured hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. But even so, these segments didn't really feel out of place. Sure, it's a bit weird to be sad over someone who you've just been shouting bloody murder at, but hey, it's a shonen thing. Very few beings tend to be truly evil in the genre, just mistreated or led astray since, you know, friendship is magic and all that. And yes, needless to say, there are those foes that are there just to fill in the empty air. They get no focus, no backstories, and really offer nothing, which does feel a bit out of place, given the emphasis the show places on the battle part of Battle Shonen, but these dime in a dozen demons only really exist in the very beginning of the story and don't really distract that much. Honestly, there isn't that much to say about the characters' personalities or backstories. Even the ones that do get focused, they are perfectly adequate in every regard, but at the same time, there isn't that much which would really make them pop either. Like the story, the characters are pretty much exactly what you'd expect from a well-done battle shonen. One thing I really did enjoy about the characters, though, was their appearance. Much like their different personalities, every character looks very unique, and their appearance reflects their past. There seems to be a reason for every scar or quirky accessory, which adds a great level of subtle depth to the characters, which I at least really liked. And honestly, the setting supports the character design in a very clever way. The Demon Slayer Corps being a pseudo-militaristic order, with a uniform and everything, further emphasizes the little personalized addition each character makes to their battle dress, and I might be imagining this, but I almost feels like it reflects the old samurai way of each warrior wearing something unique that reflects their clan and family past, now mashed up with modernized Japan introducing things like standardized uniforms. Not only that, the military-esque structure and function of the Demon Slayer Corps lends an excellent setting to support Tanjiro as a sort of a passive protagonist. Sure, he has an overarching goal, but cannot chase Muzan's demonic Michael Jackson looking ass directly like an active protagonist would. But being a part of an organization that sends him where need be provides the perfect reasoning for why he goes out there and ends up progressing the story, which is a nice way of overcoming the usual issue a passive main character has. Lastly, a few words about the audiovisual execution of Demon Slayer, since let's face it, that is something everyone knows about the show. It looks and sounds damn near perfect. And yes, I know that lends some merit to the titled argument of carried by animation. So let's discuss that elephant in the room first. Yes, the visual appearance is a massive part of what makes Demon Slayer tick like a Swiss watch, and no, it doesn't mean it's a bad show. I mean, pizza isn't the most sophisticated of foods, but it doesn't change the fact that that doughy, cheesy mess covered in salt and grease is absolutely delicious, and it's the same deal for Demon Slayer. Not every show can be as refined as, say, Attack on Titan, and most have absolutely zero need to be. And Ufotable made the right choice here, sticking to what they do best. Big, flashy, high-contrast animation porn paired with one of the most hype-inducing soundtracks in recent shonen memory. But that's only for the fight segments, and while there is a lot of that, and these do look and sound like a full-budget movie, the rest of it is just okay. On average, Demon Slayer's look is fairly well adapted from the manga, with slight adjustments to make it more comfortable to look at in motion. It's simple and kind of chunky with big and bold lines and movements, even in the quieter moments. There is practically no subtlety in the visuals, and I think that's just fine. Sure, they do sometimes play around with the style, making things look simpler or just different for a joke or to emphasize a point, or, well, to save budget, since let's face it, scenes that look like this must cost an absolute crap ton of money to make. Lastly, a quick word on the music. I don't understand music and I don't pretend to either, so this, as per usual, is where careful critical analysis from me goes right out the window and I'll be riding purely on feeling. And that feeling is nothing but hype. Demon Slayer sounds awesome. Now, the soundtrack isn't my usual preferred style, me being a metalhead when it comes to listening to music for pleasure, but here it just fits so damn perfectly, and well, they did play the Season 1 opening at the Olympics, so it can't be bad. So then, conclusion time. What are my overall thoughts on the one shonen that everyone and their mother has seen? It's not peak, and it's not mid. Demon Slayer is solidly above the seasonal average, but it's still at the end of the day just a well done battle shonen, be it one that I happen to love and which could be summarized as pure entertainment value. It's never boring, and its highest peaks, well, the records speak for themselves. Not everything the show does works that well, but it honestly doesn't even matter since nobody watches shonen looking for perfection. It's a genre for brainless entertainment and a brief escape from the bleakness of reality into a fantastical world that in this case just happens to look and sound damn near perfect. It immerses you in its action and offers episode after episode of pure cinema, but it's still a shonen, and as such it comes with all the baggage the genre is known for. In terms of its technical execution, Demon Slayer is a perfectly enjoyable anime, and the audiovisual spectacle raises it to an 8 out of 10, even if Season 1 starts a little slow. But we are not machines that only look for technical perfection, and as such I've opted to include a second rating, and that is purely based on how much I happen to enjoy the show, and here Demon Slayer scores a full 10. It's objectively speaking a solidly above average show, and one I cannot help but to love. And finally, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Did you agree or disagree with my verdict? Are you gobbling up Season 3 as we speak, or did the slow start of Season 1 put you off it entirely? If you like this, like it, dislike it if you didn't, subscribe for more anime goodness, and check the links in the description if you want to engage with me outside of YouTube. With this, I have been Cheese, and I hope to see you next time. Ta-ta for now.